What's up guys, it's Greg coming at you with another deck profile. This one is going to be Junk Fabled. It's a fairly new deck of mine, and one that lives up to its name, I'll admit it. It's not the best deck ever, but it nets a few fun wins, it does a few cool tricks, and it's nice enough to be worth playing. So, let's start off. We have 3 Fabled seleveral. This guy is probably one of the best tuners in the deck. Just the ability to discard him with anything and then get the free special summon off him is amazing. Then we have 3 Fabled Grimro. This is awesome. This is the Rhoda for Fabled monsters. You basically get any Fabled you need to your hand. But Thunder King Ryo really wrecks this card, so you need to be careful. Then we have 3 Fabled Crews. This thing is like Lurie, but better. It lets you get any Fabled you need back from your grave, and usually what you'll end up doing is you will end up pitching Grimro to get Crews to your hand, then you will use Crews when discarded to get Grimro back, so it's sort of like a super Fabled, and you get more deck than out of it. Then we have a pair of Fabled Chawas, because they let you discard from the hand. 3 of them would be a bit much, just because the deck's got other stuff going on. 2 Fabled Kushano. I may end up switching to a tour guide from the Underworld build to make better use of this guy, because he is a level 3 fiend. As he stands though, it's a great way to get Fableds off and pitch him from the grave. He can't always be normal summoned to set up Grimro, and that's not really a waste since the deck doesn't really need normal summons except for a couple cards. And he's a lot of fun and really effective. We have a pair of Luries. If you pitch this off with Fabled Chawa, you've basically gotten yourself a Formula Synchron. And that's one of the ways that this deck can potentially make things like shooting Quasar Dragon. 2 Fabled Ganashia. Pretty much the only level 3 other than Kushano that the deck has in terms... That's a complete lie. I'm sorry, but this thing is one of the ways that Quasar can happen as well, because you've got Seleveral in here and you've got other things. And 1 Fabled Nozochi. Now, a lot of decks don't use this. I'm just teching the one. I think more than that would be dangerous, just because it's like having an extra Chawa in the form of a non-tuner. So you can actually pitch off tuners that will get its effect, or you could pitch off, say, Crews and get Kushano back, something like that. It's workable. And that's it for the Fabled monsters in the deck, but there's a few more left. So we got a pair of Junk Synchrons, and that's the real reason the deck's named Junk Fabled. I wasn't just being self-depreciative, though I do that enough as it is. Since most of the Fableds are level 2 or below, they're easy to bring back with this card, and because it is a level 3 tuner, you're setting up a lot of synchros easy. Then we have 2 Doppel Warriors. Yeah, Fabled special summon themselves from the graveyard. Add in Junk Synchron. Special summoning from the graveyard. You run Doppel Warrior in Fableds. You just do. If you need to kill your friend to steal his Doppel Warriors so that you can run them in Fableds, do that. Actually, no, don't do that. That's probably the worst thing I've ever heard. And then we have a small TG engine in here, consisting of 2 Warwolf and a Striker. The reason I put these in here is because I wanted just a little bit more special summon oomph in order to make some of the combos work. And the search effect with these guys is such that if I need A, but I have B, I can set A and search into B. Usually I won't do that though, but this guy's a level 2 Sidra tuner. Fables special summon so easily that you get Warwolf off a lot. And the last monster in the deck is Sangan. He is a staple. It is so much fun making synchros with this guy, especially if you make Fabled Ragen, because then you end up with a 3-card hand. That's a lot of fun. Yes, the Sangan would resolve last for those of you who don't realize that. And that's 26 monsters. That's a hell of a lot of monsters for a deck, but it really needs it because of the way it works. On to spells, we have 2 MSTs. I've said before, a lot of my decks don't use 3 just because I need the room for other things. It's just the kind of decks I build. But The 2 works fine for me. If you want to run 3, you can. Heavy Storm because it's a staple. Foolish Burial lets me set up junk synchron plays, and it also puts Kushano directly in the grave. I may end up taking this out if I switch to a Tour Guide from the Underworld build, but it's just there. Reinforcement of the Army. I have 5 warrior targets, 2 junk synchron, 2 doppel warrior, and a TG striker. It's a little bit of extra deck thin, and hey, that's never bad. Monster reincarnation. Usually you'll only see this in Twilight or really bad decks, but since it triggers Fableds and helps put stuff you need back in your hand, I figure it's worth running one of. Card destruction. It isn't just for Dark Worlds, folks. If you can simultaneously wreck your opponent's hand and get a whole bunch of Fabled effects off, then you are golden. Pot of Avarice, because you go through monsters like crazy, as any Fabled player would tell you. And usually you'll end up putting back like 3 synchro monsters. So you put 2 monsters back in your deck, draw 2, you end up not increasing your deck size at all. And we have Monster Reborn, because it's an obvious staple. 5 traps in the deck. There are not that many. Starlight Road, which was a later addition that I discovered I kinda needed. Trap Stun, for the same reason it's in Infernities, is it just lets you save yourself from traps for the turn and go all out. Because in a combo heavy deck, you really want that. Call of the Haunted, just so you can get a little bit more summon leverage. I might, if you guys have a better suggestion than Call of the Haunted, I'm all ears. Mirror Force, I put one in pretty much everything I run. And Torrential Tribute, same deal. Just because they help get my opponent's monsters off the field, and that's a good thing. Haha, Martha Stewart. Anyway, extra deck. We have Armory Arm. I love this thing, it's nice. I've explained that before. I've got Fabled Unicorn. Usually I'll just end up making this as an intermediate step if I have too many tuners in order to go straight to a synchro, but he has put in work before. I remember having a game where I sat on him in a Hyper Librarian. My opponent and I both had 3 cards in hand, and at one point my opponent drew for turn, so they ended up with 4 cards in hand. Then they played Dark Hole, and without thinking that because they'd done that, their hand now contained 3 cards, so it fizzled. Yeah, it put in a lot of work. Speaking of Hyper Librarian, yay! With a deck that synchros as much as Fabled, you'd be an idiot not to run one. I know it might be a little bit harder to get, but since its price has dropped a lot, it's not $50 anymore, you should be able to get one. 3 Fabled Ragan. And before you ask, yes, I can make all 3 of them. In fact, there are games where I've not only made all 3 of them in one game, but all 3 in one turn. It's a lot of draw power that you end up getting off this guy. No room for other level 5s because of him, but that's rarely a hindrance. You can go without getting 1 or 2 of them if it means winning the game. Got a Brionac because he's a staple. Black Rose because it's a staple. I don't make it much, but it is certainly useful. A Stardust Dragon, mostly for the Starlight Road, but this is one of the few decks that can Synchro Summon him. However, I'd rather Synchro Summon Scrap Dragon. I ended up getting this thing back like a couple months before it was announced that it was being reprinted, so haha on me, but oh well, I needed the thing, and it's as simple as that. It's put in so much work for me since I got it. Formula Synchron, really obvious, so easy to make. Shooting Star Dragon, I don't make it as often as I could in other decks, but I have made it before and it is certainly helpful. TG Halberd Cannon is a stand-in for Shooting Quasar Dragon until I get my hands on one, but it would obviously be Quasar, and... ooh, coffee's ready. Yeah, you can pretty much see. I mean, this thing is nowhere near as good, but at least it is a stand-in, and I suppose I could get Hyper Librarian off. And then lastly, I have 2 Xyz monsters. Obviously, I'd side into Chimeratech Fortress Dragon instead of take away a space in Fables. A Gachi Gachi, which was a late addition after I realized and had pointed out to me a couple times, hey, I get level 2s on the field a lot. Maybe I should have a Gachi. And Leviathan Dragon, because it's an easy detach. It's essentially like Laval Valchain for Infernities. You've got a monster where you can make it, and then just pitch it off. Usually you'll put Kushano in the grave and set up combos. And yeah, that's pretty much my Junk Fable deck. Just like Infernities, if I end up switching it up and doing a Tour Guide from the Underworld build, I'll just post a revision video instead of a brand new deck list, because really you don't want to listen to me describe a whole new list for a couple cards changed. So until next time, this is Greg and my kitty saying see ya.